to the path of my deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, I'm calling your name. Oh Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to an all-new episode of Let's Talk on your favorite channel, Huda TV. I'm your host, Arqam Rashid. In this episode, we will be speaking about how to deal with doubts. And we will tackle this issue from a general angle and also from a very specific angle, which is how to deal with doubts about your religion. So let's start off by introducing and welcoming our panel for today. On my right-hand side, sir, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Sure.
Go ahead, inshallah.
My name is Omar Khalid. I work as a programmer for preparation of programs and TV scripts and also in translation.
All right, Umar, welcome back to the show. It's wonderful having you on, and I look forward to this conversation today.
Thank you so much. It's always my pleasure.
And it's our pleasure to have you on. Next time, brother, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead.
My name is Idris. I'm from America. I'm here studying Arabic and memorizing Quran and teaching English also.
All right, Idris, how's teaching English going?
It's going day by day, one day at a time.
Yeah, you two always join me usually on Let's Talk, and we have wonderful conversations. I'm looking forward to this one as well.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to come over to this side. Brother, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself. Go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Ilyas Townsend. I'm from London. I'm currently not doing much here in Egypt because I'm going soon, so I'm not doing anything. So we're just preparing to go back to the UK.
So is this the last time we'll have you on Let's Talk? For
Possibly, or maybe one more. Maybe next week is the last week.
Let's hope there's one more.
So you can arrange a dinner for me to go.
Okay, inshallah. But honestly, it's been wonderful having you on Let's Talk. We usually tend to have you on a weekly basis, and the show's going to miss you.
I'm going to miss the show, apart from the long drive. But it's always a pleasure being here, and I've met so many nice friends along the way. So alhamdulillah, it's been a pleasure.
Alhamdulillah. Once again, it's nice to have you on, inshallah. Brother, next time, if you can give us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself, go ahead.
Sure. My name is Wa'al Muhammad. I'm a CPA. I work as a financial controller. And I was born in the States, and I grew up in Egypt, and then I moved back to the States, and then I'm back to Egypt. So I'm kind of have this dual culture background.
From the United States of Egypt, then.
Merge the two. All right, well, this is the first time we're having you on, I believe, especially with me here on Let's Talk, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Thank
inshallah.
you. My honor. Thanks.
So, starting us off, inshallah, today will be Umar. And Umar, I want to start off the conversation with the general causes for doubts, whether it be specific doubts or doubts about anything in general. What causes doubts?
Okay. Well, in general, if we talk about doubts, that's because the person doesn't have a solid formation or a solid ground that he's standing on. That's in general. But if we talk about doubts that are generally now popular about maybe religions, and maybe specifically Islam because it's fought against in the media and so on and so forth. So I'd like to just maybe just focus on one reason of doubts. That's psychological. And I'll give an example of this by a psychologist by the name Paul Vitz.
This is the same guy that was shocking dogs.
No!
I remember that example from last time.
No, it is different. This psychologist, he wrote a book called The Faith of the Fatherless. So he was talking about that some of the people who become atheists, not only regular people, but he focused on famous people, and like philosophers, like psychologists, so many people that are known for people like Nietzsche, like Freud, and so on and so forth. And he noticed a pattern for all of them. There is one thing in common, that they had problems with their fathers. The father was absent, or they had disrespect for their fathers. So maybe I'm not going to take the whole show and talk about this. Maybe I can come back and continue this point. But I'm going to say, as a conclusion to this point, that maybe the reason for doubt is not logical. Maybe sometimes it's something subconscious because of the childhood rearing and so on.
That's an interesting angle to look at it, actually. Idris, I'm going to come over to you. What's your thoughts on this? What do you think are some of the causes for doubts?
There are several, but I've never heard that one before. That's
That's an interesting angle to look at.
But I mean, the classic one that you'll hear, and I think is probably one of the major ones, is a lack of knowledge. We have an innate feeling as humans that we have to understand everything, and that when we don't understand it, then there must be something wrong with it, or so there's something that isn't right about it because you don't understand it, or you don't have enough knowledge about something. It's just something in us. I don't know what it is, but it tends to be. A lot of people are like this. So, in my opinion, it has to do with a lot of lack of knowledge.
Lack of knowledge. Okay, that's another very good and important point, actually, and that's something I want to actually comment on later on, inshallah, during the show.
Kind of vast.
It's very vast. Ilyas, I'm going to come over to you. What's your thoughts on this? If you can share with us some of the points you had in mind.
Two things come to my mind. The first one is popular culture. Okay. I think popular culture causes a big doubt in not just Islam but religion in general, because it's very popular now to be disrespectful with regards to religion and to speak ill of God or make fun or what have you. And I think that people that grow up in a religious household, sometimes they feel a conflict. Okay, do I adopt the popular culture, or do I, adopt the religion of my parents or what have you? And sometimes it's a big clash, maybe in music, in films, or whatever the popular culture is. And we need to understand that as human beings, we do what we see. Whatever we see, we replicate that behavior. So if all around us things are anti-religion, then we're going to gravitate towards that. So popular culture. Number two is mispractice of religion. For me, this is a big one. A big one. When I was working in London, in a mosque, I was in the office, and a man came in who said he used to be a Muslim, then he became a Christian, and what became apparent was that his father really mistreated him. Like,
that relates to
yeah, exactly. It's almost point. His father really mistreated him, and he was abusive to the mother, and etc. And this person, he attributed all of that to Islam. Said this is what Islam preaches, or it's what Islam teaches, etc. Another thing that really came to my mind, there was a famous person in London who just, Stephen Fry, who's just such an atheist, like one of anti-religion or what have you. And what you find with the famous people that propagate this mindset is that, again, it's just misrepresentation or mispractice of religion. So I remember there was one person he was talking about, God failed, and his explanation was when his mother was very sick, she refused all types of medication. Said she's going to put her trust in. This is a Christian woman. She's going to put her trust in God. I can't remember what Christian denomination. I think it's Jehovah's Witness. And they don't take medication or blood transfusions or anything like that.
There's a different understanding of tawakkul.
Exactly, yeah. So the mother passed away, and so he's grown up thinking, well, this religion has caused my mother not to seek the medical help. Yeah. So those are the two things that come to my mind.
That last point you mentioned, it's very interesting because, I mean, for example, we have, what's that Somalian lady's name? Ayan Hirsi.
Yeah.
And she has the same kind of ideology that, because she was mistreated when she was growing up, whatever issues that she faced, she makes it seem as if that was Islam.
An Islamic problem,
that's the Islamic problem. But it's not. It's like you said. It's a mispractice of religion. Well, I'm going to come over to you. What are your thoughts on this?
Actually, I'm going to pick up the conversation from from a more a doubts for a Muslim point of view.
Sure.
First of all, people are different as far as levels of doubts. Some are mild, some are moderate, some are like extreme. And the worst thing is leaving doubts till it gets really serious. I would like to differentiate between two types of waswas or doubts or whispers from the shaitan. One is called in Arabic al-waswas al-qahri, and the other one waswas al-shaitan. Al-waswas al-qahri is known as the OCD or the obsessive compulsive disorder. It's a type of disorder where the brain and the behavior behavior of the person goes through a disorder causing an anxiety, meaning going through an actions and understanding of a repetitive nature. For instance, I prayed 3 rak'ah or 4 rak'ah. Did I close the door or I did not close the door? Is this surah pure or not? Can I make wudu or not? Did I skip reciting al-Fatiha in the prayers or not? For the obsessive compulsive disorder, from a Sharia point of view, there is like I would say a rule that we can always apply it, and it helps us to fight this type of disease. Certainty is not removed by a doubt. Certainty is not removed by doubt. So if I am sure that I recited Al-Fatiha in the first rak'ah, for instance, I don't have to go back and recite Al-Fatiha again. If I am sure that I didn't use the bathroom or I didn't like answer the call of nature or pass wind or anything, so my ablution is still valid. The Prophet ﷺ has a hadith in Muslim, which is an authentic hadith. The hadith goes on telling us that if you are praying and then you feel something funny in your stomach, something like a gargling or something in your stomach, you should continue praying unless you hear a sound or you smell something funny or a bad odor. Other than that, so the Prophet ﷺ here, as a psychologist, not only as a prophet, he identified the OCD or the al-waswas al-qahri, the obsessive compulsive disorder, and he instructed us how to fight it.
And that's very interesting, because what interests me is that throughout Islamic history and Islamic law has dealt with these issues. If you open the books of fiqh, you can see they dealt with OCD.
Right.
And they have rulings for people with OCD that, okay, does this, if he doesn't remember, or if he constantly keeps making intention, I'm praying for, what do I do? I'm praying for. Now he's confused and he's going to be standing there for 10 minutes.
Right.
So, so what's the ruling for him? The fuqaha discuss this. The jurists actually discuss this, and they have chapters in books of fiqh. Whether you pick a book up that's 500 years old, 600, 700 years old, it's there. There's a whole chapter dealing with people that have OCD and how they have it a lot easier. They can just, pray. Don't worry about it. If you don't remember, that's it. You continue. If you don't know if this is 3rd rak'ah, 4th rak'ah, do your sajda sahwi. Don't worry about it. So, subhanAllah, it's very interesting how religion has dealt with this. That's a very good point you brought there, Wa'il. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now I'm going to come back to you, Omar, and what I want to do now is, each one of you guys mentioned very different angles of doubt, which is good because it expands our conversation, we can say. So what we want to do is we want to tackle some of the ways we can react to these doubts. Like, what should a person do if he has these doubts? And what I want you guys to do is, since you guys brought different points, you can tackle your own points.
Okay.
Okay, so Omar, if we can start with you.
Okay, I just wanted to add a point.
Of course you can.
Thank you so much. Paul Witz, he is just continued by giving an example of Sigmund Freud. He is the father of psychoanalysis. And he's known by that he is not only an atheist, but he's anti-religion also. So Sigmund Freud had this relationship with his father that, for instance, he gave this story by his own narration, that he was walking with his father and told him what was the environment like when there was anti-Semitism. So he told him a story of a Nazi coming, approaching him and pushing him and insulting him and saying, "You Jew," something, and insulting him. So Freud asked his father, "What did you do?" So he said, "I just picked my hat, that's it." So he said, that was the seed for me to disrespect my father, because I felt that he's weak. He couldn't defend me. This wasn't the only thing. The second thing, that his father left the house and didn't fend for the family. And I think we see this in our Muslim societies. We cannot deny that. That some of the fathers, they just leave their families, and they don't, not only financially, but also to support them by emotions, and to go closer to the child, and to listen to his problems, and and don't think about these problems as childish or something like that. This is a very important topic. There's another point that I want to make, that Brother Elias pointed out, not knowing how to fit in with the society. Paul Witz actually was an atheist, the psychologist who wrote the book, and he became a theist after that by going and searching into books and seeing the pattern between these atheists. He said that the main reason for him not to become a theist, and that he was an atheist, because of the academia. He was a professor, and he felt, if I became a theist and believed in God, that will make me seem like I'm weird, because the whole academia is taking a certain route and I'm taking another route. So I think the solution to this is for us, for instance, as Muslims, that we have to have this strength of knowledge, as Brother Idris told us, that we have to have scientific basis of our answers.
Okay, so you're saying basically for a full conviction we need scientific proofs or a scientific basis.
To answer with the same language that maybe my child is going to ask me a question and tell me, well, my professor told me this about evolution, for instance. I cannot say to him, oh, this is against religion, I just don't mention anything further.
Okay, so you're saying we need to be able to tackle it from a scientific view.
Sure, because this is the same argument. He's giving it from a scientific or biological perspective. I have to answer from a biological perspective.
But don't you think that that's a different grounds to play on? Meaning, if he's giving it to you from a scientific, I'm not saying you're right or wrong, I'm just saying if he's giving it to you from based on science or based on a scientific proof, you're playing in his playground then.
Well, that's right, that's a point, of course, but that's right, I shouldn't end there. But this is a starting point, because if I tell him I'm not going to take this as a route, he will think that I am weak, I don't have an answer. This is my point.
Omar, we're gonna come back to you, and inshallah maybe you guys can share your thoughts on that as well. But before we do that, we're gonna watch a short video, so stay tuned.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are.
You know what I mean? Because negative thoughts are those things that get in the way of doing what we really want to do and being who we really want to be. You know, it's just like, the way I like to think of it is like a little dude that likes to chime in at the worst moments. Like, he'll just be like, hey, I don't know about this. You know, I don't know if you're good enough. I don't know if you have what it takes. There's so many other people who have done it. What makes you different? You know, just like all these just doubts. It comes a lot of times in the form of doubt, and we just have to like retrain that voice and replace it with something that's going to empower us, that's going to benefit us. That doesn't mean completely ignoring the negative, because there's value in that, right? We can grow from that. But not letting that take over and control us, but really mastering it and making that voice in our head serve us and benefit us and push us forward to express and be who we really are. So that's really what we're going to tackle today, and I'm going to give you some simple steps to do it. So the first step is to really identify that voice. Every time you hear that voice, like, point it out, identify it, because then you can start to recognize when that chimes in. I know a lot of us, and I know myself included, I used to think that voice was just me, you know, like, oh, those are my own thoughts, and any thought that popped into my head, it was like the truth, it was just reality, instead of realizing some thoughts are just part of the like processing things. Some thoughts are just passing thoughts, right? When you hold on to them, when you engage them, or when you see them and embrace them as truth, that's when they stick around, right? Especially when they're negative thoughts, that's what's going to damage you, and that's what's going to prevent you from doing and being who you want to be. Number two is you got to question or mock that thought, right? Because when a thought pops in, it's easy, like I said before, to just take it as truth, right? Oh, it's in my head, it must be real, right? It's like something on TV, you know? Anytime you watch something, doesn't mean it's real, it's just something that's on there, something that's on like the display of your mind. So identify it, and then like, let's say the thought comes up of, oh, what if I'm not good enough? You know, what if I don't have what it takes? You gotta kind of question it. Is that really true? Am I really not good enough? You know, and something that I realized further than that is you want to mock it, because anytime something is in a silly or ridiculous voice, it sounds stupid, right? And the way I see this, and you don't have to embrace this truth or not, but this is the truth that I believe, is that anything that's limitation or fear-based isn't who I really am. It's not my true spirit, you know what I mean? And so if I identify a thought, if I point it out, and I realize, and I question it as like, is this like a limiting thought? This is something that's limiting. This isn't something that's representing my true self and who I really am, then I gotta get rid of this thing, right? And so by mocking it, it makes that voice sound stupid and less likely for me to embrace it or to accept it as truth. So an example of that would be just like saying, well, I guess I'm just not good enough. You know, something that sounds so ridiculous that makes you just like crack up and laugh at it, you know, because at that point you're like, dude, this is bullshit, right? This isn't a real thing. This is just some stupid thought. The next step is where we really take action further and like condition it. It has to do with neuroplasticity and literally like the way you can think about it is like any other habit, thoughts are habits, emotions are habits. So, and we talked about emotions a little bit last week, but when you think something over and over again, it's like training your brain to go there naturally. And so a lot of times, if we haven't trained our brains consciously, we just adopt whatever's in the environment. We adopt whatever's around us, and our brain creates habits in that way, right? So for a lot of us, we do have those negative thought habits. So what we want to do is start making it a new habit of triggering empowering thoughts, right? So it's not enough. What I'm really saying is it's not enough to just get rid of that old thought and mock and question it. You need to replace it with something that's going to empower you, something that's the truth. So, you know, so going back to that fear and that negative thought of like, oh, you know, what if I'm not good enough? What if I don't have what it takes? And replace it with, dude, I am more than enough. You know, I was born with everything I need inside me. So replace it with the truth, something that resonates with you on a soul level, where when you say it, it's just like, ooh, like that has power and resonance to it. You know what I mean? So that's really it. If you want to get rid of those thoughts, make it a habit of conditioning it. First, identify them. You know, point them out in your brain. Don't just let them swim around and hang out for free. 2, question it and mock that thought. And 3, create the new habit of empowering and beneficial thoughts that are going to really just reflect who you are.
Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Welcome back to Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed that short little clip. Now, before we went for that break, Omar, we were speaking about, well, you mentioned something about science and that you think that whatever the doubt is, right, you should be able to face it scientifically.
According to category.
Yeah, according to that category. Is there anything like you'd like to add, or should I move on to Idris? Okay, Idris, I'm going to move on to you then, inshallah. What's your...
For me, since we're tackling our own examples, for me, mine was about knowledge, so I think the best way for me to tackle that is to sort of give an example of something that actually probably struck me through my journey of tarbiyah and learning and opened my eyes. And sort of a sense is that a long time ago, while learning, this is a while ago, I remember reading a hadith that said, in general, it's a little bit longer than this, but in general it said that Khilafah min al-Quraysh. The Khilafah has to come from Quraysh. So I used to think, what kind of hadith is that? It sounds like it's tribalist and sort of almost racist, like, or, you know, or it goes against the idea of, you know, tribalism, or asabi, as we say in Arabic. So I didn't understand it, and I used to think there must be something wrong with this hadith. It can't be, or I don't understand it. So I just put it to the side and decided that I would, you know, whatever, I don't understand it. There must be something wrong with the hadith, not me. So later on, after, you know, many years, things where I ended up leaving my world, coming to the Arab world, and sitting and learning, you know, how a lot of the Arab world is. And then it dawned on me, the hadith makes perfect sense. Why? Because coming from my background, I can't understand or fathom the hadith. But coming from this background, I understand how, for these people in this region, as much as silly as it might sound to me or a Westerner, lineage and who you are means a lot to them.
Right.
And much as I wanted to push it aside and deny it and try to say, it's the reality of the situation here. And it's very difficult to unite them upon anything. So they would unite around someone from Quraysh who's pious and who's, of course, it isn't the only thing, but I'm just speaking about this one aspect. So then I started to think, here I was doubting this hadith because I didn't understand the wisdom behind it. There's a reason why he was doing this, and to add on that, it's the heart of Islam. Where is the heart of Islam? Mecca. Who controls Mecca? Whose land is that? Whose area is this? It's the Arab. So if they can't unite on it, uniting anywhere else would be different. So anyways, to make a long story short, for me it was, just because you don't understand something, don't doubt. Don't start feeling that something's wrong with what you don't understand. You don't always have to understand everything, and you won't, even scientifically. There are scientific theories change every 20 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Every 50 years. We don't know. Look at the new things they're doing with the atom smasher, and they're changing all the time. So don't let what you don't understand cause doubt in you. The only thing that you need to have, 100% certainty is that Allah exists. If you doubt Allah, you have a problem, and you need to really, really face this problem. Everything else, just let it go. Your job is to worship Allah and believe in Him without, 100% certainty. Everything else, don't worry about it. Figure it out as you go along.
But what if somebody does have doubts in God? How would you overcome something like that?
If they have,
I can come back to you if you want to think about it.
No, I can
Okay,
answer.
sure.
If they have doubts in God's, they need to go back and read the Quran. The Quran will answer any doubt, and if you don't understand the Quran, you need to find someone who does to help you. Because if you know the Quran and you read it in Arabic, Allah, in the Quran, He talks about this. Allah tells us many times, many different ayahs about the believer has no doubt in this. Allah will erase your doubts, believe me. The problem is that you don't understand. So when you don't understand this critical thing, you need to seek the answers for it. When it's a small thing like this, like I had, you don't make it a big deal. But when it's critical, you need to seek the answers for it. And the answers are there for your deen and your religion and this aspects.
Okay, that's a very interesting way to cover your point there. One thing I'd like to add to that is that I completely agree with you that sometimes you can't grasp and understand something, and that's because you can only understand to a certain extent of the walls that surround you. So until and like I'd just like to add a saying of Imam Shafi, I believe it was, that the more I learn, the more I realize how little I knew. And it's this saying is truly amazing, because you don't realize how little you know until you learn more. And once you learn that more, you're like, okay, why was I so harsh with this, or why was I doubting this? I didn't know there was another opinion in this. So until you learn, you expand those walls that you built around your mind. So your mind has certain walls that you built, and the more you learn, the more it expands, until something that you were not sure of that lies outside those walls falls within those walls, and you understand that as well. Ilyas, I'm going to come over to you if you could tackle your point, or any of their point if you want to comment on it.
Well, I had 2 points. My first point in regards to what causes doubts was mispractice of religion. And it's very similar to Brother Idris's point, is having knowledge of your religion. Okay, understanding what we took from an Islamic perspective, understanding why we do things. And not just being Muslims simply because our parents raised us that way. Because if we were to do that, then I wouldn't be a Muslim right now. I mean, my parents didn't raise me as a Muslim, obviously. And this is an important one, because it's important to, one of the things that removes doubt is knowledge at the end of the day. So if you have a doubt in anything, we need to find out things and clarify issues, and then inshallah, you find that you actually, your knowledge book or your iman or your faith becomes stronger. Your faith actually becomes stronger. So one of the key points with regards to misrepresentation of religion is to understand your religion, understand it more, learn about it more. Because the more you learn about it, the more you appreciate and love it. Now you're talking about open the books of fiqh, and it talks about OCD, hundreds of years ago.
Right.
And when you think, wow, you feel this religion really it encompasses every aspect of life. Okay, on the way to the show, me and Arthur were talking about, I don't know if I can mention it. We're talking about if a woman or if a man changes his gender, becomes a woman, and accepts Islam, what are some rulings connected to that? And then I mentioned to him, I remember being asked a question in fiqh, or if a person's, is there half and half, a hermaphrodite, what's the ruling? And for some people it might seem like frivolous talk, but if you think about it, like these topics are written about, subhanAllah, look how many years ago, even when we're having a discussion with Arkham about Salah on aeroplane. And when the scholars would write about it, like in those days, people must be thinking these people doesn't make any sense. So you realise, subhanAllah, like every single topic, anything you can think of, it's going to go back to what Allah said and what the Prophet said.
not to take up, but also to add,
Yeah.
which goes against those people who try to say that we don't have an example, we don't have a way forward from the Salaf for what we have now.
Yeah.
People try to say, you know, we need to reform,
Reinterpret,
change, reinterpret. We have examples for everything. There isn't something that we weren't left, you know, to figure it out on your own.
Yeah.
So here's the foundation and figure out on there is a foundation for everything. If you just need to find the people who know.
And what's
Yeah.
missing is the further development on these foundations.
Yeah.
Like, for example, like you mentioned, you know, what if somebody's on an airplane? How do you pray? Something like this, interestingly, was tackled a long time ago before the creation of airplanes. I mean, there's some of the fiqh books speak about what if a person is in air.
Yeah.
And you know he's not on earth, his feet are not on earth. How will he do sajda? And they tackled this issue, and we no longer do this type of thing. We no longer progress in our thoughts and be creative and think about how we can tackle issues that haven't taken place yet. Before I let you continue your second point, we're going to go for a short break. So as soon as we come back, Brother Ilyas will continue commenting on his point. So stay tuned.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, Subhanallahi al-azim. How perfect you are,
Welcome back to Let's Talk Now. Before we went for that short break, Ilyas was telling us about how to tackle the issue of mispractice of religion. And he had one point left, which was popular culture. So I'm going to give him the table. Go ahead, Ilyas.
Yeah, I think, so just going back to the previous point, another thing that we need to understand when we're dealing with doubts about mispractice of religion, a Muslim is not the same as Islam. You know, and this is a very important point. And with the rise of, you know, ISIS or people that appear to be, you know, practicing Muslims and big beards, etc. Sometimes they may do things, and we just say, well, that must be part of Islam because the strong Muslims are doing it, and that can lead to doubt. So we need to really come back to what Allah and what the Prophet ﷺ said, and that's crucial. With regards to popular culture. We need to learn to be individuals, because the fact that the whole community is doing something doesn't mean it's correct.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't mean it's correct at all. If you look at Lut alayhi salam in his time, you know, look what they were practicing. If he was just okay, well, everyone's doing it, so I must do it as well. You know, so we need to understand. We need to be a bit brave, and we need to have pride. And the Prophet ﷺ gave glad tidings to the stranger at the end of the day. So we need to kind of understand that popular culture is a facade anyway. It's not, you know, it's just...
I mean, but it's peer pressure. I mean,
it's peer pressure at the end of the day. And it changes all of the time. It changes all of the time. So when I'm talking with family members, they're always, sometimes friends also, they're always concerned about the way they look. Okay, I need to have this done. I need to have mine and nose done. I need to have X, Y, and Z done. It's always like this popular culture is making you hate yourself. And we need to love ourselves. So sometimes we take bits and pieces from popular culture, but our Islam is something that never changes, whereas popular culture is always changing. Without it, we just become like leaves blowing around and wherever the wind takes us. But Islam is like a tree, it's fixed, strong, it's proud. And that's how we need to be also.
But I mean, but that topic itself it's a very deep topic. I mean, we can talk about, we can do a whole episode on popular culture and how to deal with it, because
maybe we should.
Maybe we should. And especially because everybody almost follows popular culture, and it's that's why it is called popular culture. So yeah, maybe we can do a show about this. Actually, that's a very good idea, Idris. Hopefully, I'll write it out and let's think about it. Well, and I'm going to come over to you so you can tackle some of your points that you mentioned earlier on. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I was talking about the two types of al-waswas, and I got to finish the first one, which is OCD. The second one is waswas الشيطان, which most of us know that it's the devil whispering. الذي يوسوس في صدور الناس, the devil who whispers in the chest of mankind. And the Prophet ﷺ, through the Sahih of the Sunnah, had taught us so many ways to tackle and to fight back different types of waswas. For instance, reciting Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2 of the Holy Quran, try to make it every 3 days. This makes the shaitan or the devil flees away from the house which we recite Surah Al-Baqarah in it. This is one thing. Another thing is the marvelous benefits of Ayat al-Kursi. Reciting Ayat al-Kursi once at the morning and once at the evening, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appoints an angel to guard you from the morning to the evening and from the evening to the morning. Reciting the last page in the Quran, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, protects you from all kind of evil. And also another powerful, I would say, tool is supplication and supplication and supplication, asking Allah to guide us or to guide the person from the waswas and the whisper of the devil.
And that's very interesting because, you know, both points that you mentioned, both of them are very common and directly related to religion.
Yes.
And even I find myself sometimes like, is this the third rak'ah? Is this the fourth rak'ah? Falling into something like this, it's very common. So I think it's very important for everybody, especially people who have this trouble, to study the fiqh that's relating to that aspect. So they can know how to handle it, they can know what to do. They know that, I mean, some people might not even know that they don't have to repeat their prayers. That they don't have to, you know, I don't know if I prayed 3, 4, let me pray again, all 4. I mean, this is going to waste a person's time if he's constantly facing this on a daily basis. One of the last things I want to tackle is that now doubt sometimes can make somebody question their religion, question their beliefs. Now, are doubts a good thing? Should they be censored? So should things that cause doubts, should they be censored? Or what do you think, how do you think it should be approached? I know that you said that we should be able to scientifically prove against anything that causes doubts to our religion, to our beliefs. So I just want to get your thoughts on this, and then I'll move to the rest of you guys, inshallah. Go ahead.
I just wanted to tackle this question from a different dimension. The brothers said very important points about education, knowledge, and practicing Islam. But sometimes the biggest obstacle for a person to get over the doubt is one word: the willpower. Maybe somebody doesn't have the willpower to even overcome the doubt. It's an excuse for him. Like, okay, I want to live my life and I want to just have no rules in my life. When doubt pops up, I'm going to run and I'm going to live a party in my life. I think this is one of the main reasons why Pulvitz, the psychologist here, he became a theist after becoming an atheist. When he had the will, he said, even if there is a pressure, I don't care. I'm going to, even if they think that I am a backward person, I'm going to be a theist, I'm going to believe in God, whatever happens. And this leads us to the point, maybe I didn't want to be misunderstood, that it doesn't mean that every child that has a traumatic child experience that is going to be an atheist. It doesn't mean this. It means that the opposite, that if there is an atheist, look, maybe there is something in his childhood. The opposite. It doesn't mean that everyone has a problem. That means that some people, or most people, they have problems in their lives, that's most of us, and they don't become an atheist or they don't have doubts because they have the will to get over the doubts, and they don't stop there and say that, okay, I have doubts, that's the end game and I'm not going to search.
And one thing I think is that Muslims, I think I said this before as well in one of the previous episodes, that Muslims in modern day have more reason to doubt their faith. And more because basically that somebody 500 years ago didn't have the same reasons in the same environment to doubt his faith. Like nowadays, scientific advancement, everything comes from non-Muslims, most of it. And it gives reasons for Muslims to doubt it. Is this correct? You know, this is. But back in the day, it wasn't like that. When Muslims were having their golden age, there was no reason to doubt your faith. Everything Islam told you was the reason why they're at where they were. So why they progressed so much, why they were at the top of the world, leading the rest of the world, was because of Islam. And everything was based from the religion. That, you know, Islam encourages this. Islam encourages us to seek knowledge. It encourages us to to make scientific discoveries. Whereas now it's the exact opposite. We see Muslims, okay, this is against our religion scientifically, this is against our religious, so some of these ahadith don't make sense to us. So now it creates reasons for Muslims to doubt themselves, and one of the ways to overcome this, it connects to what Brother Idris said, which is knowledge. We need that advancement. We need to rebuild ourselves from those foundations that the Muslims in the past have left us. Idris, I'm going to come to you and hopefully you can share some of your thoughts on what do you think, are doubts a good thing for Muslims or what?
I'll say doubts in of itself aren't really a good thing. They don't have a good connotation usually. But the bigger picture, I think, would be that how do you respond to any doubt that you might have? Your responses will determine whether or not this doubt was good or not. If you respond in a positive way and learn and push yourself to solidify your beliefs, then you've responded in a positively way. If this doubt has pushed you away to, you know, becoming an atheist or believing in some, you know, I'm going to be a murderer and this is right, you know, as people do nowadays, then your doubts have pushed you away from, you know, in a negative way. And I would like to add also that we have to understand that the most successful people in this, you know, in this world, the Sahaba, the reason I think, in my opinion, is one of the reasons why they were the most successful isn't only because they followed the Rasulullah. It's because they believed without a shadow of a doubt about what Islam taught them, what was brought to them, what the Rasulullah was saying. They didn't have even the inclination of any doubt in them. Allah rewarded them because they believed as if it was the fire in front of their hand. They believed and prayed, you know, as if they saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in front of them. So this doubt, you know, removing it completely, made them who they were. It was like the foundation, the pillar to build upon for them. If you had wobble ground, of course there may be individuals at the time who had doubts. I'm not saying that 100% they were that way. Yeah. But the point was that the majority of them, this is why they were who they were. You know, the ones that were wobbly, they're not very remembered these days. People who were shaky in their faith, who are they? You couldn't even name them because history forgot them. History remembers those who stand upon what they believe and are firm. Why do people believe? Why do people remember Ahmed ibn Hanbal? For one reason only, because of what he stood upon. Without a doubt, he didn't shake, he didn't quiver, he didn't do anything. Why do people believe them and remember them? Because of what they stood upon. They didn't have any doubt. So
yeah, I'll let you finish.
No, go ahead. Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think another thing that relates to that and is very important is that parents and teachers, and especially scholars, actually scholars and imams and people of knowledge, the people who claim to be the ones holding the religion, I think they should be approachable in terms of doubts. Meaning when somebody has a doubt, you should be able to approach the scholar and ask him. This many times you don't see. You see if somebody, especially if a young person has any doubts about religion and he goes asks a sheikh, you know, I'm having doubts about this. What? You know what I mean? Like it's that connection between the shuyukh and the regular people are not there anymore.
For me, I had this wonderful Sheikh Jafar Idris. He's in Riyadh now. He was one of the most approachable people I've ever met in regards to this. I've seen personally people come to him who were shaky and had doubts. He comforted them and gave them understanding they didn't have from anyone else. So that you became to love him for his adab and his akhlaq and more than anything else. And his knowledge is through the roof, so.
Yeah, and sure, of course.
I just wanted to refer to Brother Idris' comment on how do Muslims respond to the doubt. Can I refer something from the Quran? I just want to quote from chapter 49, Surah Al-Hujurat, two verses which really tackle what Brother Idris has just mentioned. O you who believe, avoid a lot of suspicion, as some suspicion are sin. So this is, I would say, like a cause-effect relationship. The Quran is showing us right there what you just mentioned, a cause-effect relationship. If we follow a lot of suspicions, some sin will come out of it. This is a cause effect. Another verse within the same chapter, يا أيها الذين آمنوا إن جاءكم فاسق بنبأ فتبينوا أن تصيبوا قوما بجهالة فتصبحوا على ما فعلتم نادمين. Oh, who you believer, if a fasiq comes or a liar comes with news, we have to go and verify it. Otherwise, by mistake, we will harm people, and then we will regret on this action or on this saying. So the two verses draw for us and the way to deal with inaccurate information or news, doubts and suspicions.
And obviously the best way to deal with anything is take it from the Quran, so thank you very much for that addition. Dries, would you like to add anything?
No.
Okay, Ilyas, I'm going to come over to you now. Same question, I just want your thoughts on it as well. Do you think censoring doubts is a good thing? Do you think just doubting things is a good thing?
Doubts are great things. I don't think there's anything wrong with doubts whatsoever. The response to doubts is, I think, where the issue arises, as Brother Idris and everyone else has mentioned. But one of the things that leads to doubts is debating. It's going back to what we said before, debating leads to doubts. But when the doubts arise, how do we react to that? Now this is really important. When Musa alayhi salam was debating with his people, and then they said to him, I want to see Allah, can we see Allah, please? Can we see Allah? And Allah was very upset. But then Musa alayhi salam asked to see him after that. And then when Ibrahim alayhi salam was debating, you know, the king was saying, I take life, all these things. And then the thing he asks Allah, Allah, show me how you give life. And Allah says, awalam tu'min, don't you believe? No? So the first things they done is they asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove those doubts. So doubts isn't a bad thing. We look at the Prophet ﷺ, he had doubts when he received the message. He doubted himself.
I thought he was going crazy.
He was going crazy. He had to go, his wife Khadija, comforted him. And sometimes he would get, revelation. Not saying he doubted the revelation, but he would be hesitant. So the doubts and the hesitancy are not bad things, but it's a sign how much we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the problem we have, and Brother mentioned it, sometimes when we have doubts, we just go to the wrong people. And you touched on it earlier on also. Sometimes we don't approach people of knowledge. Sometimes we're ashamed to. Sometimes we don't want to admit problems. Or sometimes they're not approachable. And now what we're seeing today, is that everyone is just talking on social media, for example. You'll hear anything. The person that has not looked in the Quran or Sunnah, etc., will be given opinions about Islam just based upon what they heard or what their own personal feeling is. So the doubts in these days are just exemplified because everyone is talking. If I have an inclination towards a topic, I can find someone to support me. So now is the greatest time, the most important time to always try to ask people who study the religion after we ask Allah Himself. Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, when he didn't understand a verse, the first thing he would do is to ask Allah to give him the understanding of it. But sometimes we don't even do that at all. We don't do that. That's the last thing. It's the last thing if we do it at all. So it's about going back to Allah and asking Him to remove those doubts. Then after that, finding trustworthy people, people that have left their sofas and left their smartphones to study Islam or what have you. And once we have that, then inshallah, a lot of those doubts will be removed.
Inshallah. That brings us to the end of our episode. But before I leave you guys, I just wanted to reiterate something that we said, and Ilyas mentioned this point as well, that you need to be approachable, especially if you're a parent, if you're a scholar. The people who have doubts, your children or your students, they need to be able to approach you with their doubts and whatever they have doubts about. And this is from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because, I mean, just to give you one example, I remember the hadith that one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ came to him and told him that he wants to fornicate. He wants to commit fornication, and the Prophet ﷺ was so open with him and spoke to him about it. And this is very important because we no longer are open like that. Everything is taboo. So I want to leave it off with that, inshallah. I want to thank you guys for joining me here and being a wonderful panel today. So once again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page and our YouTube channel. And until next time, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah. I'm calling your name, Allah. I call you, I need you, Allahu Akbar, Allah. Your mercy is great.